is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Run It Back here on the Kansas City Sports Network. I am your host, Jazsmin Halliburton, and I have another very special co-host guest with me today. That is none other than Kolby Van Camp, just like the pork and beans. He is the host of training camp on Wildcat 91.9 and the number one operatic sportscaster in America, if not the whole world. Ladies and gentlemen, Kolby Van Camp. Kolby, thank you so much for joining me right here on Run It Back like many times before.
Of course. No, Jazsmin, it's an honor to be on the show with you. I'm glad that you were able to break in with the Kansas City Sports Network. Obviously, I listen to 3 Mile all the time. It helps me with my own sports broadcasting and staying up to date with information. So this is great too. So I'm really happy to be here.
Absolutely. And once again, thank you for coming. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a lot of things on tap for you guys in this show. We have a very special guest who y'all are about to see, none other than Coach Mansfield, the new head volleyball coach at Kansas State University. He came on the show here today. And also, we do got to talk about K-State volleyball and K-State soccer. Unfortunately, not having the greatest Sunday in the world, playing against none other than Nebraska, an old Big 8 rival, which unfortunately we got our butts handed to them the entire day. It is what it is, Kolby. It is what it is. And we'll get to soccer in a moment, but we do have to start off with K-State volleyball. Now, Nebraska, we know like everybody saw it in the world probably with Nebraska hosting Nebraska Omaha in front of 93,000 people in their own stadium, which was an amazing event to even witness. I really hope more schools do it. I hope K-State does it because I'm going to be up in that piece. I don't care when it is, right? But you do have to look into this game. K-State did lose in straight sets, and it was 25-21 first set, 25-15 second set, 25-19 in the third set. And hitting percentage, unfortunately, was the lowest of the season at .056. Lowest number of kills with 31, lowest number of assists with 30. And I get these numbers aren't great. These numbers are not great. I understand that. But if you solely look at the stat sheet, then yeah, you think we absolutely got our asses kicked, right? But I want to tell you that is not fully the case because I actually watched the match. I'm not just looking at the stat sheet. I actually watched the match against the number 4 team in the country. And Nebraska's insane. They are a really good team. But I tell you, K-State was like right there. They were right there. You look at these numbers. We lost the first set by 4 points. The second set was rough. We lost by 10 points. And we lost the third set by 6 points. And we were up by as much as like 4 or 5 points in that set. And it's just the craziest thing because K-State was making plays that we haven't seen them kind of make plays earlier on in the season. Of course, new head coach, everything still went cool, fine, and dandy. They won 9 straight sets going into this game against Nebraska, okay? I like 12 straight sets because they had 9 straight sets coming into the Omaha game just last week, right? So they were right there. They were making plays. They haven't done an already a really strong showcase, granted against lesser teams, but still really strong showing, right? And the points that they had, bro, it just kind of shows just a testament how really damn good Nebraska is because every time it was just a point could have gone our way against any other team. But Nebraska, and they're just crazy athleticism. They had 12 blocks, and every time the block happened, I'm like, this was literally any other damn team in the country. It would have been a point for K-State. That's just how close it was. This wasn't a butt whooping like the stats look like it was, Kolby. I promise you, it was not. Everything was so close here and there. If 1 point went our way this, we probably could have won a set here. If another point went our way this, it could have won another set here. I can't guarantee you that we would have won this match against Nebraska at all. But I would tell you, if just a point here and there would have gone our way, it at least would have gone to 4, right? And that's just the most frustrating thing about it because, gosh, this was not a butt whooping against the number 4 team in the country, despite what it looks like losing in 3 straight sets, you know what I mean? It's just frustrating. But once again, we're close. We're not Nebraska level just yet, but damn it, man, we was close. All right. And at the end of the day, it was Aaliyah Carter with 9 kills, Liz Gregorski with 7 kills, and Nia Clinton, who I was really impressed by in this game. She came in with 4 kills, matching City Bolde, who was one of the best middle blockers in the Big 12, right? She also had 4, and then City Bolde had, I think, a total of 6 blocks in that game. But Nia Clinton, redshirt freshman, 6'2", someone we haven't seen a whole bunch. She was, of course, on this team last year. Didn't get to see her play a lot, if any. Then she comes in this game, once again, number 4 team in the country. And I'm like, she stood out. I'm like, okay, this seems like this is kind of her coming out party. I know last year it was, in my opinion, it was Shaylee Myers against Mizzou, where she just had a hell of a game. And now I think this is low key like a Nia Clinton's like, yo, I'm kind of here too. You kind of have to pay attention to me as well. Just shows like the strength that this team has, and it's still super, super young. Man, this is still a super young team, and them being able to pull tight against the number 4 team in the country in Nebraska. And Kolby, I know you don't have the greatest of knowledge in volleyball, but than me about the history of K-State of why K-State really does not like Nebraska, and that's why this kind of hurts a little bit more than it should. Please give us a little bit of history of why this hurts so much against them.
Well, first of all, it's a testament to the coaching staff of Kansas State and the volleyball team that you have the number 4 team in the country showing up on your home turf, and that the game really was closer than the stats showed, right? I think that's a testament, right? Brand new coaching staff. You got a bunch of stuff that you're trying to work out. There's kinks. There's things that you're learning about your players. They're learning about you. And then you schedule a major test in a storied program like Nebraska volleyball. I thought it was really bold of the coaching staff to run with those games and to keep them there. But then you know what? When Kansas State played Alabama in football, all you heard from the offensive line after the game was, we just played the best, and now we know what that looks like. Kansas State just played the best. They know what it looks like. So what's an opportunity for them to rise to the occasion now that they've played the best? I think that it's probably greater than we would anticipate it to be. So there's trade-offs, right? You hate to see the loss in the bracket, but at the same time, against a team like Nebraska, it's a great learning experience for a young team, new coaching staff. So I'm here for that. In terms of just the Nebraska-Kansas State rivalry, I mean, I had to pull up my numbers to make sure that I got this right. The schools first met in football as non-conference opponents in 1911. And then that rivalry was broken up in 2011 when Nebraska went to the Big Ten, leaving the Big 12. And because of football, I mean, there's some big stuff that happened between Kansas State and Nebraska. 1939 is the first meeting between Kansas State and Nebraska's conference foes that was televised in Manhattan. And it was the second ever televised football game of all time, which is crazy. College football game, not professional, but the second ever televised college football game. So Nebraska and Kansas State, they go way back. The programs for a long time didn't like each other. I think that hate has kind of waned over the years now that over a decade has gone by since we've been facing Nebraska on an annual basis. But frankly, I'm here for it. Renew the hate. I totally would love to see Kansas State and Nebraska playing more non-conference games against each other as an opportunity to get back into one of those really intense, Big Six rivalries, right? I mean, Pappy Waldorf, 1934 football, playing Nebraska. It's crazy. So I love to see that for Kansas State.
Yeah, we love to see it too. Honestly, I understand that this is not going to be a rivalry that we get to see every now and again, but I guess this kind of just makes us appreciate it a lot more when we get the chance to play them every once in a blue moon, right? But thank you, Kolby, for that little tidbit of Nebraska and K-State rivalry. And up next, we have a really, really special interview with none other than Coach Jason Mansfield, the new head coach of K-State volleyball. And before we go, cannot forget about Home Field Apparel. I know y'all need some new gear for this upcoming season for football, for volleyball, for soccer. When Coach Tang gets back in the building with his boys, and of course, when women's basketball starts making their imprint on this really tough conference as well. So please head to Home Field Apparel to get yourself some new gear. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Welcome back to Run It Back. I have none other than a very special guest, and Coach Mansfield, who has went to 7 Final Fours and 1 national championship in about 20 years of being on the sideline of women's volleyball. The man has got some accolades coming from Stanford and Washington. Everyone, please welcome in none other than Jason Mansfield. Snaps along. Thank you so much, Coach, for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. So I do want to ask you, because you're still new to, the Manhattan area. A lot of K-State fans don't exactly know who you are just yet. So what would you like K-State fans to know about you?
That I'm a teacher. I've always kind of wanted to be a teacher. I had a great high school teacher that was also the basketball coach. He taught English and really inspired me to want to coach and want to teach. And yeah, I think from then just really had a passion to teach. And so once I started coaching when I was 19, just haven't stopped. So been coaching volleyball for a long time, and just love teaching, love seeing people grow and get better. That's the most exciting thing. So yeah, that's a little bit about my journey.
Okay, so and I guess to continue on about your journey, what actually attracted you to K-State? Because I know that the accolades you were probably really popular among other schools, but what about K-State said, this is the place I want to be?
There was a lot of things. I think that we spent two years at the University of Illinois in the Big Ten, and being from the Bay Area and then living, in Washington. I really enjoyed our time in Champaign and in a small college town, and really saw the value for my family and also just the support, that a small town can provide. So I think that was the first thing that was really attractive about it. And the more I watched us play and watched the team play from last year, just saw a lot of talent on the roster, and that got me pretty excited. And then, really just Gene and Jill just believing in me, really. I have interviewed for jobs before and had some interest in some places, but I'd never been offered a head coaching job until Gene offered it to me. So I don't take that lightly, and his support and trust in me, I think, was I just felt like it was meant to be.
Right. I like that. It was meant to be, but also continue on, because you said you watched the players, you were really excited about, the type of athletes that K-State has in this program. But of course, in the world of the transfer portal, a lot of times when there's a coaching change, a lot of players, they go into that portal. What was a selling point for you to keep those players at this program, to make them kind of buy into what you were selling?
Yeah, I just wanted to try to build trust from the beginning. And I think that the very first conversations I had with them, right when I accepted the job, I wanted to get them all on a call or on a Zoom with them and their families right away, the 11 returners. And so just try to really build the trust of just who I am and why I love to do what I do. Like I said, I love to teach, and really competitive, and really want to try to build a program that's great, and so I think just try to have those conversations and how I try to care about the athletes individually. I think hopefully they felt that from the beginning. And then I really don't think it had a lot to do with me, to be honest. I think their love for each other and their love for K-State were really the reason that they decided to stay. And then once we started training, I think they understood, that I do have their best interest, and I want them all to improve individually. And I think that the trust really started to build, day after day in the gym.
Yeah, I know. I talked to Shaylee Myers in my first episode on here, and I kind of asked her a similar question, like, what about, Coach Mansfield made you want to buy in? And she said a part of her staying was also just being around the girls, how close that they are, like you said, and of course, seeing what you were able to do and how you're a teacher, right? And how she kind of like brought that up, and how you have the best interest at heart of all of these players, like every coach should, right? And I guess still piggyback on that, what player has impressed you the most these past, few months at K-State?
It's a tough one. Yeah, I don't, it's hard to pick one. I mean, I think that I was really impressed with Mac Morris, who is the Big 12 academic, player of the year. Just really talented on film, and just seeing her every day and seeing the plays that she makes, the wow plays that she makes, and the consistent plays that she makes, going back to last January. Leah Carter, obviously very, very athletic, very skilled, very competitive. So she's really impressed me with her improvement, the last 9 months. So really, really love her game. Sydney Bolding, I think she's the best middle in the country. I mean, she's unbelievable blocker, getting better offensively. She's a real threat. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, our freshmen are really impressive. All 4 freshmen have come in and really kind of hit the ground running and made our gym better. So I love them. I don't know. It's hard to pick. I love our two transfers, Liz and Izzy. It's hard to come into a new situation, when you've been in college for 3 or 4 years and try to fit in and try to play, as well as you can. So, those are some of the few, but I just been really impressed with how on it they are every day and how willing they are to learn and get after it and compete and really try to improve individually.
Yeah. And I think Liz and Izzy are some of the most exciting additions that you've been able to add. So being, of course, the new head coach in this program, what about them stood out to make them want to come here or make you want to add them to the team, so to speak?
Yeah, I think that with the transfer portal, I think one of the positives is that people are looking for a fresh start, and they also have experience, a lot of them. And Liz doesn't have a ton of experience on the court, but she has a lot of experience in life, and she's very skilled, and so I knew that from the beginning, and talking to her old coaches and even her coaches at Wisconsin, just kept hearing the same thing. This is a competitive kid, this is a great culture kid, but she's a really good volleyball player, and very skilled. And so that was really appealing to try to get a ball control kid like her that had the experience, that has been a part of, multiple Big Ten championships and a national championship team and knows what that culture looks like. And then I've known Izzy for a long time. I watched her play all the way back when she was about 15 or 16 years old, and just an incredible athlete. Coached against her a bunch in the Pac-12, so knew her skill set as a setter and also as an attacker. And just really fiery. Comes from a volleyball family. Her mom and dad both played. So just love their experience in the college game. Love what they've been through and kind of what they're looking for. And they both have a pretty big chip on their shoulder to prove that, that they can be more than what they've been in college so far.
Sweet. And now, Coach, of course, you had a lot of success at the, assistant level with, Stanford and Illinois and Washington. What have you learned from that success that you can apply with your first year of being a head coach? Yeah,
I think that it's really just all about the athletes. And I think the cultures that I've been a part of, I think if we focus on them and their improvement and caring about them more than just volleyball players, I think that is where the foundation kind of falls. I think their improvement on the court, every day and their ability to grow within a year or within a career is the deal. It's what programs are based off of is the players within the program. So I think caring for them, not just players, but as people, I think is the biggest thing that I've taken from the programs that I've been a part of. And I think that's the foundation of what we want to do. And then just trying to be consistent in everything that we're doing, how we train, how we watch film, how we lift, just everything that we do, try to be consistent at that, and hold them, to a high standard, I think is what we're trying to do. And then there's a lot of power in belief, there's a lot of power in believing that a player can be great, and try to really push them towards that every day. There's a lot of players that I've coached that weren't as highly touted and really improved, year to year and became really, really great players because we believed in them and because we try to find ways to make them better. So.
Okay, Coach. And I know, and people who've watched my show, I've asked every single player about this and it's conference realignment. I don't care. People are getting tired of me asking this question. I value a coach's opinion and a player's opinion about conference realignment more than I do about fans, because you guys are in the mix about conference realignment and directly affected. I want to know your opinion on it, because you coach two different schools in the Pac-12 that seem to have to kind of, I don't want to say forcibly, I don't think that's the right word, but kind of didn't have too much of a choice and kind of going to a different conference, right? With Washington going to the Big Ten, I think, and then Stanford is just announced 2-3 days ago that they're going to the ACC, right? So I want to know, where are your thoughts about where conference realignment is, not only for the Pac-12 but also for the Big 12 as well?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's just sad. I mean, I spent 20 years in the Pac-10 and then Pac-12 once Colorado and Utah joined, and so Yeah, just sad. I think once UCLA and USC were leaving, to me, the conference was not the same, and there was no duplicating those two schools. And so even if the Pac-12 decided to add a couple of schools, I just didn't think it was going to be the same. And so I'm not surprised that teams have gone to the Big Ten and the ACC, and I think it makes sense. So I'm bummed that it's no longer going to be a conference, and if it is, it's going to be kind of a shell of itself. But for us, I'm really excited. I'm excited to add the teams we added this year, and I'm really excited to add, the teams from the Pac-12. I think that I'm just thinking about the athletes and thinking about schools that can charter and schools that can't, and we did not charter at Washington because we have the airport right there. And I'm just thinking of how Washington is going to be playing Rutgers and Maryland, and how that's going to affect them. And not only that, just landing in Chicago and then having to drive 2 hours to Champaign, or 2 hours to play Indiana. I don't know how that's going to work unless there's a lot of money spent to try to help the athletes travel. I know we learned a lot from COVID as far as the stuff that we can do online in school and all that, but there's no substitute for in person and being a student and feeling what that feels like to be a student athlete. So I'm excited for sure to compete and to have our conference grow. Our commissioner has done a phenomenal job with that. But yeah, I'm thinking about how it's gonna work for some of these other conferences in travel and all that.
Yeah, and I kind of talked to Shaylee in the first episode. Where K-State is placed, they're kind of the lucky ones. They're like right in the middle of the country that they can, pretty much go anywhere, east and west, right? But like you mentioned before, you got players from Washington have to fly all the way across the country to Maryland or Rutgers. That'd be an issue compared to, of course, the furthest I think K-State would have to go is UCF, right?
Right.
So that's just how they're placed. But as far as, at least in the Big 12, in the new conference that we have and the new teams that we have coming this season and, of course, coming next season, who is someone that you want to keep your eye on the most in this conference?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that the 4 schools we added this year in Central Florida, Cincinnati, Houston, and BYU, 4 really good volleyball schools. So I think that a lot of people may look at those schools like, maybe a couple of them are good in football, good in basketball. From a volleyball standpoint, we upgraded big time. BYU is a top 10 program every year, and they're talented every year. Their coach does a phenomenal job of recruiting and training. And then Houston is a top 20 team this year, and what they've done over the last couple of years has really gotten that program to big time heights. So those 2 programs in their stuff are really hard to beat this year, and I don't see them going anywhere, especially now being in a Power 5 conference and being able to recruit the kids that they have been able to recruit, and I'm sure beyond that. But yeah, those 2 schools are good, and Cincinnati and UCF have had players and seasons in the last 5 to 10 years that have been deep runs in the tournament and conference championships and stuff.
And as you're talking about the pure firepower that's being added to the Big 12, we played Nebraska, of course, on Sunday, and number 4 team in the country. The type of crowd they can bring, obviously, with the 92,000, 93,000 that we saw before, which is absolutely insane and incredible. Yeah. But tell me about the benefit of playing a really good Nebraska team so early in the season when we do have all these firepower teams that we're about to play this season.
Yeah, I think you want to play the best. I mean, if you want to be a great team, you want to figure out where you're at, and you're going to figure out where you're at by playing the best teams. And so I think it was a great test for us. I think we were ready for it. But there's no preparing for a team like that until you're actually in the match, to see their physicality, to see their skill. They're a really good team, and they're a team that is individually very talented, but I think collectively has a chance to be really good as the season goes on. So I was excited about the match for a lot of different reasons. We knew that there was going to be a great crowd again, much like there was against Nebraska Omaha. We knew we were going to play a team that was going to compete and had a lot of physicality as far as what they can do at the net. And yeah, I think the best thing was that after the match, the girls were disappointed. You know, they were disappointed that we didn't play better, and I think that was a great sign of, okay, if we're disappointed that we lost to Nebraska, then we have the right mindset. You know, that we want to get better, and we think we can play with anybody. And I'm certainly gonna convince the girls that we can do that, because I believe that in every match that we play. But we have to make the plays that we're capable of making, and then keep getting better as the season goes on. So I think it's a good test early, and I think we made plays that we had not made in any match before that, which was really exciting to see that. And how do we do that, you know, over and over and over again within a match? And that's the goal.
Yeah, and I actually really noticed this. Of course, you know, volleyball way more than anyone who is watching this, and definitely way more than me. But I noticed with this match, I know if you strictly look at the stat sheets and stuff, it would seem a lot worse than it was. I just know there was just like, they seemed like just a couple of points here and there that if it just went our way, it would have been a lot different. And obviously it just shows the athleticism that Nebraska has, because there was a few plays I'm like, gosh, if this was against anybody else, it would have been a point for K-State, right? Yeah. But seeing that, how, like you said, how the girls were disappointed that it went that way, because I think I'm even being frustrated as a fan. They're even 10 times more frustrated than me, because they know exactly how close those points could have been if anything had gone their way compared to how it was, right? So at least how this one was against Nebraska, and of course you guys have, I think, 2 more invitationals before conference play starts. What would you like to see from this team to help them prepare for a gauntlet in this conference?
Just being more consistent. I think that we have a deep team. We have a really good, I'll call it bench, but we have players that are more than capable to come in and change the match. Anaya did it against Nebraska, came in and played well. But we have multiple people that are more than capable of doing that. And I think when they get their shot, you know, they just play within themselves and do what they're capable of doing. And I think that, you know, character is the number one, you know, value we have and core value in our program. And I think that it's not just your character off the court, but it's your character on the court. You know, who are you as a competitor? Who are you as a teammate? And can you be consistent at that, you know, regardless of the situation? And so, yeah, this weekend we head to Nashville. We're not going to play in front of, you know, 3,500 people probably. We're going to be on the road, and it's going to be a pretty hostile environment. But I think, can we be ourselves? Can we be ourselves? Can we compete the way we want to on every play, and just consistently do that? I think we're still searching for that in all conditions. When maybe we're not playing our best, you know, individually or as a group, how do we connect and how do we compete, you know, when things get tough? I think that's what we're searching for, and that's certainly what it's going to be like in the Big 12.
Awesome. Well, Coach, thank you so much for being on and talking with me. Hope to have you on again later on in the season.
Anytime.
Like that. We'd love to have you. Thank you so much, Coach. We'll be right back with more Run It Back here on the Kansas City Sports Network.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Can you believe we've had 7 months without an NFL game? Crazy, right? Well, good thing that's over, because NFL is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving you a can't-miss offer for week number 1. This week, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 for any NFL game. DraftKings is hooking everyone up with game day greatness. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every single game day this September. Check the app to see what you get. Download now and use code KCSN to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. The new code is KCSN, and that is on the sports betting, but only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problems gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dkng.co/football for eligibility, terms, and responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after insurance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions do apply. Everybody, welcome back to Run It Back. I'm your host, Jazsmin Halliburton, and I am co-hosting with none other than Kolby Van Camp, the #1 operatic sportscaster in the entire world. And you just missed a really, really, really good interview with Coach Jason Mansfield, new head coach for K-State volleyball, starting in the new Mansfield era. And we talked a little bit about K-State volleyball and their loss to #4 Nebraska in 3 straight sets. Like I was talking about before, it was not as bad as the set sheets show. I promise you, because it was right there. It was right there, but a couple points went here, a couple points went there. We might be having a different conversation. But none other than Nebraska got the best of us. And unfortunately, they got the best of us the entire Sunday because, damn it, man, it was a really rough outing against Nebraska on the soccer field where Cats lost 4-0. And Kolby, you called that game. I watched the first half. I watched Nebraska score all 4 goals in the first half. And I say sorry for this, but I couldn't watch anymore. Man, I remember what's the toughest part about getting to call and talk about K-State sports is that sometimes you just have to sit through the rough ones. And I couldn't do it. But I came back, watched it, and I ended up watching the second half today before the show. Just okay, so I just had to suck it up. So I apologize. I will not do that again. Of just going somewhere else watching that game. But Nebraska is good. They're good, man. That is a tournament team if I've seen one on that soccer field for Nebraska, right? But it was. I'll read you guys some of the stats from that game. Nebraska outshot us 30-14. They had 11 shots on goal to K-State 7. Nebraska and K-State both had 7 saves. Nebraska outgained us in corners with 11-2. Nebraska had 2 offsides to K-State's 1, and K-State had 12 fouls to Nebraska's 8. So, Kolby, you calling that game, what stood out to you that just was uncharacteristic for this K-State team?
Well, first of all, there was a physicality that Nebraska brought to the table that Kansas State has maybe not necessarily seen entirely. Kansas State played a really physical team in number 18 at the time, Northwestern, and went down to the wire with them and tied them at Northwestern. So it was a little bit strange. It was a team that, in my mind, Kansas State should have been able to hang around with, and they proved that they were able to, blanking Nebraska in the second half of the game. I mean, they went 45 minutes, gave up 4, and they went another 45 minutes and gave up nothing. So there was a definite shift in momentum in terms of Kansas State, Nebraska from half to half. But the first half was just all Cornhuskers, and it was really because of just their physicality. They got in front of Kansas State. They stayed in front of Kansas State. It was just continuous offensive pressure from Nebraska the entire time. I mean, they barely were in there defending half of the field or defending third of the field. I was just blown away by the way that Nebraska put the pressure on Kansas State. And Kansas State didn't respond very well to that. And I thought perhaps that they would.
Yeah, and honestly, it's crazy to even think about that because normally K-State is the more physical team, so just them, because I've talked about this in, the other 2 shows I had for this one, that, when you play K-State, you better lace up your boots because they're going to play physical. So the fact that Nebraska came in and played more physical than K-State, that's just a shocker. And like you said, Kolby, it was just constant offensive pressure from Nebraska. I know they were in the attacking third, honestly, for so long that they probably got mail there because it was just that tough defensively. And it's another surprise considering like how good K-State has been defensively the past 4 games that they were in, or the past 5 games, I should say, because they had a strong defensive showing against, obviously, of course, number 18 at that time, Northwestern. They had a really great defensive showing against UTSA. It was a strong defensive showing against Creighton when they drew 0-0. And even the same thing goes when they played against Vandy last week. It was good defense all the way through and an unfortunate penalty kick in the 68th minute that turned out to be the game winner, right? And Murphy Sheaf was really good this season, only allowing 1 goal, I want to say 4 games prior to that Vanderbilt matchup. And then, of course, it's always hard to stop a penalty kick, right, when you're a goalkeeper. And then going and you see just a complete shift defensively against Nebraska. Like, even just their specific individual players on the ball, they were so comfortable. They're so confident on the ball. They were making some moves to get past K-State defenders. I'm like, damn, just stop it. You know what I mean? You could have done this any other day against any other team. Why did it have to be us, right? But it's just, that's just tough about having a really young team in K-State, because K-State is a super young team. They have a butt ton of freshmen. They got a butt ton of sophomores, handful of juniors, and I want to say 3 or 4 seniors on that team. This is a really young team. This kind of what, one of the sucky things about having a really young team, because you get a very surefire tournament team like Nebraska that just dominates the entire game. And I was reading up on what Coach Demidi said after the game. And I mean, and I kind of looked back at it, of course, today, watching the second half, because I punked out watching it on Sunday. It just seemed like their backline just kept being a little out of position and more reactionary than what we're used to. It wasn't as decisive and wasn't as stout as we know it to be. And even honestly, on the right side in the first half, the right side of the back line, where you have Jazsmin Brown at center back and El Nagar right at right back. This is some of the 2 of your best defenders, and they was just unfortunately got them on the wrong day that they were really struggling against the Nebraska forwards. And I know one girl on Nebraska whose name escapes me at the moment, but she had 2 goals in that game. And Kolby talked about how they allowed 4 goals in the first half, none in the second half, which is a really good improvement, defensively. But I'm not gonna lie, there is a couple of chances that Nebraska had that could have made this score a lot worse. And that's just, once again, it just sucks defensively. But still, offensively, the chances were there for K-State. The chances were absolutely there. And if one would have gone in early, I still think this game would have been different, because I think they had a chance where the ball just kept pinballing in the 6-yard box before Nebraska was able to kick it away, right, for a throw. And it wasn't even a corner. It was just for a throw. So that's another lucky instance that was just the ball didn't bounce our way, because Morgan Strutman, whose confidence you just continue to grow after she had one hell of a goal against, I want to say, UTSA from 27 yards out. She just put her whole foot through the ball, and it was incredible, right? She had 4 shots, 2 of them on goal, and of course, Jazsmin Brown, she had 2 shots on goal, more than likely coming off of set pieces, right? Because she's the person to go to on set pieces. And of course, Karen Singh, UTSA senior transfer, she had a shot on goal as well. So obviously, the offense is there. I think the offense is here even more this season than it was last season, right? But it's just still that unlucky bounces that we've had against this Nebraska team, Kolby.
Yeah, and there's just something to be said about you had brought it up too. You have a young team, and this is by far the best recruiting class that Coach Demidi has had for Kansas State. And something that stood out to me looking at the final box score, because they were nice enough to give it to me before I left the pitch on Sunday, but Kansas State has a really deep team. That's something that works in their favor, is that they have fresh legs all the time. They're always subbing people in. It's substitutions by committee, and it's a way to keep all of their players fresh. Nebraska had more substitutions than Kansas State did by a lot, which is crazy. And they played meaningful minutes. I mean, Reese Borer from Nebraska played 23 minutes. A couple of other folks played more than 28 minutes. And then Kansas State, Aaliyah El Nagar, she had to play 90. Kenzie Gillespie, she played 90. So it was just an opportunity for Kansas State to try and get some of those folks out. And they just weren't able to do it because of the pressure that Nebraska was putting on them. And then I think, just of note, because I like statistics and I try not to lean too much into them, but on the few statistics that are helpful, I mean, Nebraska held the possession of the ball for 58% of the game. I mean, that's significant. Over 70% of their shots came from the 18-yard box for Kansas State. I mean, it was just all over the place. And credit the Wildcats for coming out with a different game plan. They started in a 3-5-2. They had one of those 5 midfielders so that they can have an opportunity to control the middle of the field. Definitely didn't work in their advantage. And so they came out with 4s instead. They ran a couple of different sets, some different defensive positions that seemed to clean it up a little bit. Nebraska still was pesky in the Kansas State area of the pitch, but at the same time, the Wildcats were able to hold on. So it's a young team. It's unfortunate break that they had to take with this, especially coming off of a penalty kick loss to Vanderbilt. Now you get to reset. You got a couple of home games that gets you into your home opener and conference play against Cincinnati next week. It's time to take a deep breath. This is a Kansas State team that can win. This is a Kansas State team that believes. I'm friends with assistant coach Matt Smith, and he's been telling me a lot recently about this is a team that we just take it one day at a time. Our philosophy is once a game is over, learn what you learn. Don't look back. Don't look ahead. Stay where you're at day by day. Take it and win each day one day at a time. You hear that in football. Win the dang day, right? Coach Tang, he's telling his guys that. It's a good philosophy to have if you're a coach. And I think Kansas State is really starting to solidify that. So this one to me was more of a mentality thing. K-State got punched in the face directly right out of the gate, didn't respond well. But now that they've got that under their belts, let's see how they respond going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I know before going into that Vanderbilt game, they were undefeated. 2 wins, 2 draws, and they even had a draw against, the number 8 team at the time in Arkansas before the season started in an exhibition, right? So I know it sucks that they dropped the last 2 games. I know Vanderbilt a lot closer. I didn't watch the Vanderbilt game because it was on SEC Plus. So who the hell has SEC Plus? Right? But of course, going into this game and how that was rough. But now, like you said, Kolby, you gotta crumple that piece of paper up and throw it over your shoulder and into the recycling bin because you got another really tough matchup coming in, and that's Memphis. And I think last time I checked, their ranks number 17 in the most recent Top Drawer Soccer poll. They're 4-1. The only loss on the season came to number 7 Alabama, and they lost that 1-2. Okay, so it's another really tough test because once again, it's a young team. How are they going to respond to pretty much getting punched in the mouth, like he said, Kolby, against the Nebraska team who's unranked but still really, really good, right? And into a team that is ranked that you're going to be hosting at home before you start conference play. And now you just got to know, you got to really lace them boots up tight. You got to put your big girl panties on because it's time to go when they play Memphis. And they do play Memphis, and it is a home game. That will be this Thursday at 7 p.m. You can watch it if you're in Manhattan. You can go to Boozer Family Park and support the ladies. And if you're not there, you can watch it on ESPN+. Once again, that game is at 7. Kolby, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Front and Back. And thanks to Coach Mansfield for being on the show, answering all my questions. And thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back next week with more Run It Back with Jazsmin Halliburton on Kansas City Sports Network. We'll see y'all then.